By now you've undoubtedly seen at least a dozen Mario Kart World reactions and dissections, so what's one more? Hi, hello gamers, my name is Jer, and today we are going to be evaluating scene by scene the trailer for Mario Kart World. In the opening sequence, we see all of the standard racers from 8 Deluxe, and I think this was smart branding to show us right off the bat that everybody's going to be included, and then slowly throughout the trailer drop little nuggets of who else is going to be included. It opens with this new deserty world that looks a lot more Central America than the typical Egyptian motifs that we're used to with Mario deserts. This is exciting to me because even when Mario breaks away from that Egyptian motif, they tend to go on more of the Wild West side of things. We see in Calamari, it's runaway train. We very rarely see this Route 66 gas station sim type of aesthetic. So it's exciting to me to see something that's just a little bit different than what we're used to. The title of this track is Mario Bros. Circuit, and this does appear to be the opening track for the game. We even see later on that this is the starter track, and something is kind of surprising to me that such a dull looking world would be the intro for this game. This makes me wonder if it's going to be a slow build up from this kind of dull aesthetic to things that get more exciting as the game goes on. Whereas in Mario Kart 8, we saw right off the bat with Mario Circuit, it was exciting, it was electric, there were fireworks. The color palette was more on the blue side, which isn't terribly exciting, but it is vibrant in its blues and in its grays and in its purples. And that leads up through the rest of the game where everything is quite vibrant and quite electric looking in its presentation. It then cuts to a safari locale complete with giraffes walking in the distance, and again, this is not something that we typically see with Mario Kart. During the 8 Deluxe expansions, they were pulling all of their assets from Mario Kart Tour and porting them over into Mario Kart 8. And I was curious at the time about the last few tracks that were going to be added in from Tour because they hadn't been made yet. And they created Athens Dash, Madrid Drive, and Rome Avanti. And I had wondered at the time if they were going to incorporate some type of African safari. That just seemed appropriate since it wasn't represented. I was shocked that it didn't end up being made, and now it all makes sense why we never got one, because they were clearly teeing up something of that caliber for this game. Next we see Peach on a newer looking bike that appears to be a night version of like a Mushroom Bridge retool. Based off of everything else that we saw in the trailer, this seems to be very heavily San Francisco themed. And again, this is another world that I thought maybe we would see at the time of those last 3 tracks being created. But I thought, San Francisco seems unlikely because they already have LA, 2 California big cities. Doesn't really seem in vein with what Mario Kart Tour was doing or even what Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was doing. And so this world is pretty cool looking. It's super industrial from all the different shots that we saw, the aerials and the close-ups. I like that this big, beautiful bridge leads to this grungy industrial city, and I'm excited to explore more of it, especially considering that we're going to be able to explore a lot of this world in 360 views. We're shown Daisy on a waterway course with umbrellas, and we can kind of see the ocean in the background, some hanging clothes, a domed seating area, and the color of this brick leads me to believe that this might be somewhere in Italy. Since the theme of this game is world, and I think that they might be leaning in pretty hard on that theme. I think it's to be expected that we're going to see more real-world inspiration, and as far as I know, the only Italian-themed map we have is Rome Avanti. So I could see them wanting to expand a little bit more of what already exists on the global scale. A lot of people are speculating now that we're gonna get DLC that will tack extra tracks onto what already exists now. I have a feeling that we're gonna see an alternative map, something that mirrors the main one we've already been shown. It seems very unlikely that these are the only courses that we're gonna get, and a lot of the YouTubers that are creating content about Mario Kart right now are talking about how this is kind of weird that there's so few tracks. But what I noticed is that there's no Rainbow Road that has been shown so far, and Rainbow Road is a huge staple of the Mario Kart franchise. So I highly doubt that this is all we're getting. We might see parallel maps, one where it's got an Italian themed course with waterways and with the ocean in the background, maybe something that is a little more Venetian. And then in its mirror map, we'll get Romavanti, something that is much less water focused, something that is very heavily Italian inspired, but takes place in a different region. We then see another retool of DK Pass, and this one seems a lot more streamlined and wider from the previous iteration, which is somewhat congested. DK Pass is a cool map because there's a lot you can pull from that to create even more depth, and considering that this is going to be such a big game, I think that this was a smart choice to pull in. Speaking of DK, we see him heading towards a red scaffolding, imagery that's kind of nostalgic from that original DK game. You know, the one where he's trying to kill Mario with the barrels. Anyways, DK is such a main player in the Mario franchise, but he's often overlooked in the previous installments of Mario Kart games. So I'm glad to see the potential of him getting some extra love in this game. However, I was extremely disappointed that we did not see Diddy Kong, Funky Kong, Dixie Kong in any of the rosters so far. I'm hoping that they did not get scrapped from the game, because I think all these characters are fun to play as. Maybe they couldn't secure voice actors, maybe they're just holding on to them for some late game DLC, maybe they're gonna be a part of the roster but they just didn't have the time to show them because they were focused on showing us that we got most wanted characters like a cow and a sidestepper and a dolphin, you know, because everyone's asking for that. Again, this level looks pretty industrial, much like that one that I think is San Francisco inspired. I'm curious, based off what we have seen, how dangerous this course is gonna be. Mario Kart Pre's tend to have a few courses that are tame, straightforward, have a lot of story baked into them, and then ones that are just risky and dangerous to drive on. And this seems like it's gonna be the risky one to drive on during this pre. Maybe we'll see big barrels flying down the track that are attempting to squish you or to explode and push you off. And again, I'm glad to see DK get some representation. We see Pauline in the middle of a big cityscape with large buildings on both sides leading towards a tower. And above it all appears to be yet another leg of the track. This set of buildings could be literally anywhere in the world, but the delusional part of my brain wants to believe that this is almost a rehaul of the former Mushroom City. Going into my theory that there may be two maps, some type of alternate world that we'll be able to go to that mirrors the main one, I could see this being a hybrid of Mushroom City and then the alternate being New York. New York is one of those maps that is small and congested, so it's gonna need a bigger rehaul if they decide to port it over to Mario Kart World. But I could see this being the base inspiration so that it sets up what to expect from the reverse map. The trailer then shows us a massive flyover of what I originally thought was DK Pass. However, if you'll note on the sides, you'll see slalom gates. And as far as I know, I don't think those are incorporated in any of the known snow maps. So either this is a complete reformat of what we've seen of DK Pass, or it's an entirely new course on its own that's going to be incorporated in, or they're going to completely retool the way that you interact with DK Pass. Maybe even getting extra coins if you go through a certain amount of those slalom gates. We then see more of this orange sand with the acacia trees dotting the horizon, complete with massive rock formations in the background. And if you'll notice in the far corner, you can see a little tiny bridge in the back distance. This is super exciting to me as well. I'm hoping that we can drive up on those rocks. I'm hoping we can get right up on those trees. And you'll also see little buffalo that are impeding the track. Slight elements of danger, riffing off of Moo Moo Meadows. I think what they're showing so far is exciting. It's getting me big hyped for this game. I remember in the last round of tour tracks when they made Madrid Drive, it was such a low-key, uninteresting track. So I'm glad that the team was working on something that was more exciting. In what appears to be a second waterway track, we can barely make out the name on a flag that reads Peach Resorts. The sunset in this shot is stunning, and they are touting that the Switch 2 has more pixels, is going to be more HD, so I'm hoping that it can live up to the high and low lights of this shot in that final release, because this might be one of the prettiest maps that they've shown so far. It passes over to a new course, which appears to be jungly in nature, featuring a gargantuan question block as its main point of interest. I like when Nintendo goes in this route of giving us something big of what we typically associate to be something small. Again, with that parallel map theme, I wonder if Thwomp Ruins is going to make some type of reappearance in an alternative map. I could see specifically Thwomp Ruins, Dolphin Shoals, Toad Harbor, and Electrodrome getting pulled into this Mario Kart in some type of alternative map that we haven't already seen. And from what we've seen, this map does seem to be a parallel of Thwomp Ruins. We're then shown an incredibly brief shot of what could be a Bowser-themed track featuring lava pools. There's an audience shown cheering in the background. There's a camera crew van, which implies that this is going to be similar to a lot of the other circuit tracks. It's nice to see something a little more zeroed in as a generic circuit theme, rather than the typical Bowser's Castle that we see in most games. We do know that there is in fact a Bowser's Castle here, and it does appear to be something new. And if each character is getting their own pre-themed around them, it makes sense to expand out that aesthetic, rather than justify maybe a 4-course dinner of Bowser's Castle 2, Grumble Volcano, and Bowser's Castle 3. Because that would just be extremely boring. And again, Bowser doesn't have his own dedicated circuit, where Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, Peach, all of the big ones do. The highlight of Wario in the next shot shows us Wario Stadium yet again, which is a standard strong course, and I have no quarrels with seeing it yet again. I would love to see Waluigi Stadium, and I'm hoping that that will be on an additional map, because Waluigi Stadium I think is boss in comparison to Wario's. Speaking of that, Zaddy, Waluigi is shown next in what excites me the absolute most, because it's Wario Shipyard, a 3DS track that I was chomping at the bit to see ported over into Mario Kart 8, since it was such a major feature of Mario Kart Tour, and because they were porting over every one of those assets trying to save up time and money. I was surprised that Wario Shipyard never got featured in Mario Kart 8. This is such an intense map and already has a lot of explorability on its own, so I can't wait to see what more they do with it to try and flesh it out even further than it already is. And I think it's going to make a lot of people fall in love with this world from people who never got to play the 3DS Mario Kart. In Bowser Jr.'s shot, we're shown what's possibly an extension of that African safari course, as indicated by that red bridge in the background, which was slightly visible in that bird's eye shot that we saw earlier. The ground is slightly less orange, we see a little more lushness in the overall presentation. The Boo shot was super interesting to me because we see a series of frightened Peach photos on what is a film reel, indicated by the lines along the track. And the sea green portal that the racers appear to be driving towards makes me think that this is going to be an entirely cinema-themed spooky track. Story-wise, I'm not quite sure why Boo has his own cinema, but I'm also not mad at the idea. And I'm excited for the possibility of this because most Boo courses are themed around Boo Lake, which gets visually monotonous. You can even see some film reels in the wide shot of the background, so I cannot wait to see what this track has to offer and the story that it's going to present, and maybe where they go with this Boo cinema movie theater concept. Because you do see castles in the background, so how is this going to fit in with the story? Mario is shown yet again on what appears to be that starter course of Mario Bros. Circuit, and now I may be getting a little too big-brained, but the rail gliding isn't something I typically associate with Mario and Friends. My automatic recall of that game mechanic is Sonic and Company. I do wonder if perhaps, and maybe I'm delusional, if we're gonna see Sonic get ported over into this Mario Kart game. It wouldn't be the first time that Mario and Sonic have had universe crossovers. Anything is possible since they added Link, Inkling, Isabelle, and Villager to the last game. So I could see them making a justifiable argument to drop maybe Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles into this game. But it's purely speculative based on that one shot of them gliding on those rails. In the Shy Guy shot, I all but screamed at my laptop at 6 a.m. when this live was happening, because we are getting a complete overhaul of Shy Guy Bazaar. This is another one of my favorite courses next to Wario Shipyard, and I again was gobsmacked that it wasn't included in the Mario Kart 8 DLC. Bazaar and Shipyard are massive staples of the Mario Kart Tour series, appearing in tours at least once a month from when I was regularly playing. So I was surprised that based on its popularity among the tour production team, that no one pushed harder for it to get ported over to the Switch. There were maps like Rosalina's Ice World that I didn't think we necessarily needed. That could have been Wario Shipyard or Shy Guy Bazaar. So I cannot wait to see this map dropped in because it is a brilliant map, and the day-night cycle is going to make it even more dynamic than it was before. We're then shown a super tight shot of that red bridge with a neon obelisk in the center, showing a neon barrel on fire on the right side and a neon boo? A duck? I don't know what that object is on the left, but you can see water below, and it's definitely got to be connected to that DK scaffolding map that we also saw in the trailer. The neon obelisk appears to be a little more classic Mario to me, calling back to the earliest DK game, so I'm gonna put a pin in that one until we see a little more of this track, but I'm going to assume that those two things are connected. We see a new racer, the cow from Moo Moo Meadows, and I gotta say, what a strange pull. I was expecting to see Dixie over a cow. I'm personally not a fan of the way that it sits on this boombox bike. It's a little uncanny valley, and that clay doll smile makes my skin crawl. But I can't wait to main them. The background being a slightly foggier Moo Moo Meadows makes me extremely happy because that is a map that I absolutely adore with my whole soul. The next Toad shot takes place on what appears to be a Yoshi Valley type map. But I can't be certain because the road looks different than Yoshi Valley, but it's got a lot of those same visual markers as the 64 track. So we'll see on that one. The exciting part for me of this shot was seeing Toad utilize the big mushroom, an item that can make a massive difference if you're in the middle of the pack with squishing nearby enemies. And as we see, this game doesn't seem to be hindering you entirely when you get knocked over. It seems to just bump you onto your side and you don't crash out all the way. So this could be even more interestingly competitive. I just hope that the spawn rate is going to be different for this item because in Mario Kart Tour, it typically spawns when you're in last place, which is infuriating because it's not a catch-up item in my opinion. It's meant to help you avoid obstacles and to avoid getting hit. And so more than anything, I just hope that they change that pick rate for it. We see a Hammer Bro, a new addition to the roster, which I'm also excited about, throwing hammers at a racer in front of them. Again, I was surprised that we never saw this hammer item drop in the 8 DLC because it is a big part of Mario Kart Tour. And they were absolutely recycling tour assets for that DLC again and again and again. I was a little bit surprised to see the hammers introduced over Big Banana, but also I was surprised that they cut all the comms. The track appears to be that middle American aesthetic, probably an extension of Mario Bros. Circuit, but more than anything, I was just glad to see that this item is getting brought into the game. Next up, we see Toadette on a red track course, which is very little recognizable landmarks, except for a very small sign that reads Royal something in the background. The takeaway from this shot is seeing her use the coin item block. Again, this is super popular in Mario Kart Tour. Not necessarily a great item to have, it's really something that I only use if I just need to get extra coins to buy something in the shop. And so that makes me wonder if this game is going to include more purchasing features. Something that never got utilized in Mario Kart 8 that Tour 100% capitalized on is the use of cosmetics. They did microtransactions for just about everything, and every character had 6 or more extra cosmetics. Some characters like Yoshi came in different colors that you could buy, so it makes me wonder, if they are including the coin block item, are they going to lean in more to mini microtransaction purchases, or will you be able to use in-game coins to buy those cosmetics? We already saw in this trailer that there are going to be cosmetics for each character. So maybe you can buy Farmer Peach, or Ninja Peach, or Vacation Peach, and have those in your background roster. I'll get into that in just a minute. The next shot shows us something exciting, which is a shot of a semi-truck being piloted and driven to cause mayhem. This looks a lot like a bullet bill mechanic. and I wonder how niche this will be. I'm guessing it'll be a special item that you run into to trigger, give you a small bit of a boost, and my first thought was honestly, GTA Mario Kart before GTA 6 is wild. In the next Mario shot, we see him horf down this big ass burger and transform into a different cosmetic. And I want to talk about the logistics of being able to drive as a cow and Mario eating a burger. So I mentioned earlier that this is something that Mario Kart Tour absolutely capitalized on. It's kind of uncharted waters for Nintendo to do microtransactions in their mainline games, so I'm wondering how they're going to overall navigate this experience. What I feel is going to happen is that coins will no longer be locked to 10 per match. So you'll be able to get whatever coins you have, hold on to them, and use them to buy cosmetics. Similar to how way back in the day, like Mario Party 4 or 5, you could use the coins you won in-game to purchase mini-games. So each cosmetic will be 50 to 100 coins, and there will be something like a dozen different cosmetics that you can use on each character. I also feel like they might do some type of tri-monthly battle pass to unlock certain costumes that will be paid extras. Considering that, in my opinion, Nintendo's overall brand integrity has really started to degrade, I could see them leaning into microtransactions. Because it was lucrative in Mario Kart Tour. And if there's an audience to pull money from, I feel Nintendo's going to do that. And here's what I think is going to happen with those cosmetics. Much like in Mario Kart Tour, each cosmetic did something different. So a base Mario would be more likely to get shells, where another Mario outfit would be more likely to get boomerangs. Another one would be more likely to get coin blocks. I feel like this mechanic will be introduced into Mario Kart World because it adds an extra layer of competitiveness and unique playstyles, incorporating items as a heavier part of your win strategy. Something that got a lot of people quite activated in a negative way about Mario Kart 8 was how much cheese and meta went into building your character. You had to play very specific people like Waluigi on Wiggler for a certain amount of time. And then they changed the meta and you had to play Yoshi on the bike. And that meta got frustrating because in competitive Mario Kart, unless you played the character that was meta, you could not win. You could try your darn hardest, but you were never going to be competitive with someone who was using the meta. And so I wouldn't be totally mad if they removed stats almost entirely and made the game be more based on skill and item use. Maybe even have each cart be something you can upgrade with coins like how you could in Tour. So maybe you start with a level 1 cart and the more you play, the more money you earn. You can upgrade your cart and make it slightly faster. You get to determine based off how much you play, how well you'll do in the game. And we're shown a number of Peach cosmetics ranging from sporty to spooky kimono style, jet set, garden stroll style, and I'm excited to see what each character has in their arsenal and how that might affect gameplay. Because what I'm gathering from that Boo kimono outfit that Peach was wearing, I'm thinking that that will be a heavier chance to spawn a Boo ghost. Each of the Peach shots also give us a small glance into possible tracks. Segment 1 looks similar to Mario's Circuit. Number 2 looks a lot like Dragon Driftway. 3 looks a lot like Desert Hills, and 4th could possibly be Daisy Circuit. However, the stonework wasn't quite the same. Part of the backdrop almost looked like Delfino Square, which I would be ecstatic about seeing again, but I don't want to get my hopes up too much. We see Mario in a sporty look driving what looked to be something like Peach Stadium. We then get another lingering shot on this Golden Gate-esque bridge with Bob-omb cars heading towards the industrial city. I wanted to initially believe that this was Mushroom Bridge, but I feel like there's just no way that these will be even slightly similar. We get another rapid fire shot showing Daisy in a desert landscape with this colossal sand creature diving in the distance and a single tower dotting the horizon. I'm excited to see these dynamic shifts in presentation from the usual desert worlds that Mario Kart feeds us. Again, something different that we don't normally experience. And I'm assuming that multiple worlds are going to have larger obstacles because we then see Yoshi on a nautical map with a whale breaching the water. Is the whale an obstacle? Is this giant sand creature an obstacle? Or are they just there for visual interest? More to be seen as the game comes out. And in further lingering shots, we get a windmill track, a shipyard with a giant bridge in the background, a safari zone, and a stunning bird's eye view of that snowy area where we can see something colorful to the left, a giant ice face in the upper corner, and a few shots of potentially DK Pass. I also spotted a little frozen lake, so I wonder if elements of Snowland or Vanilla Lake will be included in this zone. It then pans to another world that I cannot wait to see retooled, and that's Airship Fortress from the DS. This is an exciting course from start to finish, and with this game being more open world, I can't wait to see what additional routes they are going to tack onto this. It's a pretty dangerous track, and so I think that this is going to provide a lot of unique experiences when it comes to what we normally expect from track dangers. At this point in the trailer, they start to mention day and night cycles as well as weather changes. This is so cool for me and many other fans, I'm sure, who would have loved some visual changes for the maps in Mario Kart 8. There are a lot of tracks that have so much detail built into them that you simply miss in the night shots, and that would look visually very cool if it was in daytime. During these, they show us little possible background noise to highlight the new weather feature. The next shot I want to talk about is some of these filler characters that they're dropping into the game, which I'm neither here nor there about. We can plainly see Nabbit, a character that is very prominent in Mario Kart Tour. A sidestepper, a bee, a penguin, and we see a lot of these deep cut pulls because I would have much rather have seen Wiggler or even Petey be among the drivers. A lot of people are saying they wanted to see Diddy Kong, and I feel the same way. Where was Diddy? Where was he? We're then given names of these prees, which I will talk very briefly about. We see the Mushroom Cup, which features Mario Bros. Circuit, Crown City, that industrial zone with the bridge, Whistletop Summit, which is a train theme that we saw very little of in this trailer, and DK Spaceport. I'm gonna be honest here, I felt like a lot of these prees felt hodgepodgey. Maybe they'll make sense in actuality and once we're physically driving on them, but from an early point of view, they don't have a lot of cohesiveness. We see the Flower Cup, which features Desert Hills, which I previously assumed was Thwomp Ruins, Shy Guy Bazaar, Wario Stadium, and Airship Fortress. I'm excited for all of these, and I guess they have a little bit more of a theme, with Wario maybe being the out of left field in conjunction with the others. There's Star Cup, which features DK Pass, Starview Peak, which looks an awful lot like Rosalina's Ice World with maybe some tweaks, and thank God because that is a boring ass track. Sky High Sunday, and I'm excited to see this make a return, but a little bit surprised nonetheless, as well as Wario's Shipyard. Again, this feels a little bit hodgepodgey, but maybe they wanted to avoid keeping the same aesthetic in each zone. Like maybe 4 ice tracks would have felt monotonous. I don't know, I'm someone who likes cohesiveness, so I wouldn't have minded. We see Shell Cup, which features Koopa Troopa Beach, a track again that I was surprised never made it to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but I'm glad to see here. Faraway Oasis, likely that entire safari zone they kept showing us. Crown City, and Peach Stadium. This pre is my favorite so far. The construction of it is interesting. There were then 3 other unnamed pre's. We saw a banana, a leaf, and lightning. And in the next shot, we see another filler roster character as a Cataquack. And I'm not hating at all, but who asked for this? I hate to sound like a broken record, but where are the Kongs? Where's the Animal Crossing characters? There are plenty of characters from the previous roster that I would have rather had seen them bring into this one that were popular. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm kinda sad to have not seen Isabelle or the Villager. I'm hoping that Nintendo hasn't completely abandoned Animal Crossing because of the vitriol that came from the Animal Crossing fandom, but I wouldn't be surprised if they scrapped the Animal Crossing universe entirely from the Mario Kart sphere. The one that I am very excited about though genuinely is the Pinata. Those funky little dudes make the silliest sounds and I'm excited to see them. The trailer introduces us to Knockout Tour, which features even more pre's like Golden Rally, Ice Rally, an unnamed Power Moon, Blue Shell, Double Cherry, Super Acorn, Cloudflower, and Life Up. There were a few lingering shots that possibly supported a Maple Treeway rework. I would be happy about that. And I don't want to speculate too much based on what's coming. But again, I'm genuinely excited to see what happens with that particular set of rallies. I think this game has huge potential of reworking sorry about it, dud tracks like Tokyo Drift and Madrid Drive with better visual changes, reevaluating tracks like Toad Harbor and Dolphin Shoals that had so much personality and character baked into them that I think they would fare well in a game like this with even more openness and possibilities. A track I think would be imperative to see in this world would be Piranha Plant Pipeline. It got such a huge focus in those last few months of the DLC rolling out. Again, I was surprised that this one didn't get ported over. And I think Dragon Driftway and Yoshi's Island would be great pieces into this game. I'm assuming that we're gonna see a lot of the tour courses reevaluated, retooled, and dropped into this game in some type of alternative map. And I keep leaning in on that because I genuinely don't believe that these are the only courses we're gonna see. It's too small for the price tag. And while I do believe that Nintendo has degraded their brand value over the many years since COVID, I don't think they've degraded enough that they're going to give us this few tracks and sell it to us for 80 bucks for a digital copy. Besides the fact that some staples of Mario Kart were simply not spotlighted, and those happen to be multiple rainbow roads, as well as Baby Park. Now, it's not necessary for Mario Kart to include these, but Rainbow Road has been a staple in the franchise since day one. And the fact that they didn't show us a segment of a Rainbow Road leads me to believe that there is going to be more maps. There's no way they're gonna scrap that entirely. And Baby Park has so much potential to be just maniacal evil in this game. I see them incorporating it in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's just a big swirling, you go up the track to get up to the next one, and you have to drive around it 18 times to get to the next course. Like a big curly fry course or something. What are you most looking forward to seeing from this game? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you for watching yet another evaluation of the Mario Kart World trailer. This channel is still getting off of its feet, so if you subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. And I'm working on posting even more content on this page, so keep an eye out, and I will see y'all on the flip.